Welcome back to our Richest YouTube channel. Today's class we will learn how to make this beautiful pleated shoulder kimono blouse. Okay, it's an overlap blouse and it's pleated on both the shoulder area. As you can see, the rush ruffle effect that we have on the shoulder area here is actually gathered, but you can also pleat it, and the same was done on the waist area. So we did this using slash and spread method, and it's very simple to make. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so making this is actually very simple, and we're going to be analyzing it first before we draft it. So it's a kimono blouse. As you can see that the sleeve is cut together with the main bodies, and then it's an overlap blouse. If you look on the waist area here, you can see one part of the front lapping on each other, and then on the shoulder area you can see this gathered rushed effect that we have there. We're going to be achieving that using slash and spread method. So now this rush effect can actually be on the front and the back if you want, but for the purpose of this tutorial we'll just leave the back as a normal bodies, while this gathered effect that we have here is just going to be replicated in the front part only. So now let's get to drafting this. So I'll be drafting this on this pattern, and we don't need too much measurement here because it's actually a free blouse. So here now I'm going to take from my starting point here, I'm going to measure my waist measurement. That's the half length where this is going to stop, and that's around 17 inches for me. Here I'm going to measure my armhole measurement. Here this is 9 inches, and these are the two measurements that I'll be needing for my vertical measurement. So now this I'm going to make it into a straight line. So this is the armhole measurement, and this is the full length of the blouse. So here on the upper part here, I'm going to take the first thing you need to do, because this is actually an overlap dress, is for you to create your overlap allowance. So now this depends on how much you want this to overlap. It can be 4, it can be 3, it can be 2. So I think I'll just be going with 3 inches. So from my starting point here, I'll just measure 3 inches inwards, and that's going to be my overlap allowance. So I have 3 inches there, and then I'm going to make the 3 inches into a straight line like this. So on my center front, so this becomes my actual center front line. All my measurement is going to be taken from this line. I'm not going to enter into this allowance. So now the first thing I'm going to do now is to take my shoulder measurement. So actually we don't need this because it's a kimono, but it's just going to be like a guide for us. So the shoulder I'm working with is 7 inches. I'm going to mark that. So that's 7 inches there. And then because this is a kimono, so instead of marking your shoulder, like I said, you can just take your measurement from your center back all to where you want this sleeve to stop, or you can just take your shoulder measurement like this, and then you measure the sleeve length that you want to be. This is actually a short sleeve, like a calf sleeve. I don't want it more than my bicep area, so I'm just going to measure 5 inches for that. So all together from my center I have 12 inches like that. Okay, so after having that 12 inches, now I'm going to take that 12 inches downwards, because remember we said this is going to be a kimono. Okay, so what I have here, that's from my sleeve to this point here, is 12 inches. So here now I'm taking that 12 inches up to the lower part. So now I'll measure my neckline. So the neck width I want to work with for this is 3 inches. You can do more, you can do less. And then for my shoulder slope, on where my sleeve area stops here, I'm going to go down by maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches here, and then I'll connect it to my neck point. That's where my neckline stops. Okay, so after that, now I'm going to take my bust measurement here. So I don't actually need this, because remember I'm taking this sleeve downwards. Okay, but you can just do your mini basic body so that it will guide you. So this is my actual bust measurement. The bust I'm working with is 36 inches divided by 4 is going to give me 9, and the same 9 inches I'm going to take it down from my waist. Remember we said it's not a fitted blouse, it's going to be a free blouse, so you don't need your actual waist measurement. So I just need that tentatively to draw my armhole curve. Okay, so for the armhole curve now, I'm just going to, from this bust point area, I'm just going to go downward by 2 inches, and then from there You can take your curve, or you just use your free hand to connect from this point all to this point with a smooth curve, because you don't want it too sharp. So you just blend in to your actual side seam measurement like this. So this is actually without seam allowance, but I don't think I need seam allowance. You can just add half inch to this when you are cutting, because this is actually not going to be tightly fitted. Okay, so you can just add it like that. So now this is all I need. The next thing now is to take care of our neckline. So the first one you need to note is your breaking point. So now breaking point is where you want your overlap to start, and this depends on how much you are willing to refill. So like what we have here now, you can see that it's revealing up to even the under bust area. If this is what you want, that's here is going to be your breaking point, and that's fine. But your breaking point can also be your chest line, it can be your bust area, it can be anywhere you want. So from the upper part here now, I'm just going to make my breaking point to be around 11 inches, which is fine for me. So then now you can just notice, now you're going to mark from your breaking point to your neckline area in a V-shaped format like this. Okay, so after that you're going to connect from your breaking point all the way to the lower part here for your overlap. Okay, so we can see what we have here now, and then we are through with this. So I can actually cut this out, but I'm not going to be doing the slash and spread yet, because I want to use this to also cut out my back. So I'm going to cut this out. So now after cutting this out, to cut my back, remember I said I'm not going to have any roach effect, so I'm just going to fold in the overlap allowance, because there's no overlap at the back. And then, but before you cut, you should make sure that your bicep and this is equal. Okay, you just need to take the measurement of the round space there to be sure that what you have there is enough for you. For example, the round bicep of the person I'm working with is actually 12 inches. Okay, this is 12 inches. So if you divide 12 inches by 2, it's going to give you 6 inches. So if I check this now, so this is still 6 inches, and I still have few allowances left. So it is important for you to be sure. So how do you do that? You just measure your bicep. So after dropping it down, you measure that bicep measurement with allowance before you note where your armhole is going to stop. I hope you get that. So now I'm going to cut this now, and then for cutting the back, I'm going to cut it directly on the fabric. I'm just going to fold in this allowance here. Okay, I'm going to fold in the allowance here, and then I'm going to draw out the neckline for the back. So the neckline that I want to work with for the back is 3 inches width by a depth of 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So now I'll take my marker now and then measure that neck depth here, so, or even 2 inches. So if you're going for 2 inches, you mark it there, and then you connect it like this. So now you can cut that out. It's not going to affect what you have in front, and your overlap is not going to be reaching here. So you can cut this out now, and then you place it on your back part to cut your back piece. So we are going to be adding a zipper to this. You leave your zipper allowance. So I'm using this silk fabric for this. I'm just going to be putting it on fold by 2, and then I'll place this pattern on it. So like I was saying, if you want to add a zipper to this, you just leave your zipper allowance here like this before you place your pattern. I'm not going to be adding a zipper to this, so I'll probably gather it with an elastic or something. So I'm just going to place it now and cut it out directly, which means I'm not going to be slashing it at the center back. I'm not going to slash it into 2. So now I'm just placing this on my silk, but silk fabric it shakes a lot, so I'm just taking my time so that I'm not going to be struggling with this. So once I have something okay, I'm going to cut this out. So after cutting out the back, we are now going to do the modifications that we need to cut our front, which is the slash and spread. So it's very simple to make this. Actually, it's very cute and it's beginner friendly because you don't need to do too much. So there is allowance on this already, so this means that when I'm sewing this, I'm just going to sew it tiny by that ½ inch allowance that I left, because I did not leave too much. Okay, so if you need more than that, you need to add that to your measurement. Okay, so now this is the back. Now I have the back, so I'll just keep it aside now, and then I'm going to cut my overlap allowance off and then shape out my front neckline. Okay, so now this is our actual front measurement. The next thing now is to draw out our slash lines for the slash and spread that we want to do. Okay, now depending on how much you want to slash this, now you just draw out your slash lines now. So I did it with the pencil. I'm just going to make it bolder so that we can see. So you can just measure what you have here now and divide it by the amount of slash lines you want, and then also do the same here and divide it by the amount of slash lines you want, and then you connect it together. Or you can just eyeball it and draw whatever slash lines that you wish to have for this, following the shape that you want. So you can see that I'm just making it to be a bit slanted. So this is just me drawing out my slash lines. Okay, so I'm just drawing this out, and then I'm going to be cutting it off completely, and then I'll spread it on another fresh paper or directly on my fabric. So I have about 1 2 3 4 5 6 slash line, and I'm okay with that. But before I cut this out now, very importantly, I'll measure what I have on my shoulder. Okay, because that's what I'm going to gather it back to by the time I cut this out. So from here now, you measure what you have there, and this is around 9.5. So that 9.5, you just write it down somewhere. 9.5. You can also measure what you have on the hem. So from here to this place now, for my overlap, remember I have 3 inches, and then from there I have around 9.5 also for this. So just note those points down. Then after noting it, you start slashing it. But before you slash it, because they will look similar, so you just want to label it 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, because if you don't label this pattern, by the time you cut it out, it may be a bit difficult for you to know which one goes with each one. So now I'm going to slash this open now, and then I'll spread it on a fresh paper and introduce the volume that I need to achieve my gathered or ruched effect. Okay, so I'm just going to be cutting it out, and because we have labeled it, it will make it easy for us to know which one belongs to whichever side. So I'm just going to cut it open like that. Okay, so now I've cut it out, and then I spread it. You can see we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and I have a gap of around 1 to 1.5 inches interval in between each of it. So now I just spread it like this. So the next thing now is to join them together. So I'll just take my ruler now and then connect all the ends together so that I can have them in one piece like this. And then on the shoulder area also, I'm going to connect it. So using my ruler, I'll place it now and then connect the shoulder also together. So it is that simple. If you want more spread, you can spread it as much as you want. I just have around 1 inch in between because I don't have too much fabric. But if you want it really full, you can do maybe 1.5 or 2 inches gap interval in between them. So after doing this now, you take your paper scissors again, and then you trace this out before you cut it on your fabric. So now when you're cutting this on your fabric, remember that this is just one side of the front. So you have to cut 2 of this. You can indicate that on your pattern that you need to cut 2 of this on your main fabric. So you can see I'm just following that pattern that I already have there. Okay, and then on the shoulder area also I'm going to cut this. Then you cut out your V-shaped neckline that you have. And that's all you need to do. So now this is our pattern. You can remove this or you can just leave it as it is. So now the next thing is to bring our fabric, the leftover of our fabric, fold it into two, place this on it and cut exactly what you have there. Okay, so now I've cut this out now, and then I'm just going to remove my pattern, and this is what I have. So now the next thing, remember the 9.5 inches that we measured, that was the actual shoulder measurement that we have here before the slashing. So that 9.5 inches measurement, I'll take this now and run a gather stitch now and gather this to that 9.5 measurement. And then also on the other part we have 3 inches for our allowance for overlap, and then another 9.5 inches. So I'm going to gather that to that measurement also on the lower part before we now sew the front and back together. And then remember the back is just a normal body, so basically all you just need to do now is to gather this to the shoulder measurement of the back, which is the 9.5 inches that we'll make. So we cut 2 of this for the 2 sides of the front. So this is one side and this is other side. So everything that you've done for one you should do on the other side. So now I'll just go and run a gather stitch and then bring it back so that we can continue. Okay, so I've run my gather stitch now. So this is what I have. This is the shoulder area, so you just pick one of it now and then gather your shoulder to the 9.5 inches that we started with. So if you want a knot of ruffles there, remember I just did 1 inch. So you should do you should spread as much as 2, 3 or even 4 inches. It will give you that really rush effect. And then on the lower part also we gather it to the original measurement that we started with. So all the gathers that we did for this part, for this one now, you repeat it on the other half of the front bodies also, and then you spread your gathers equally. You spread it well. Okay, so can you see what we have? It's going to be small, like I said, because I used just 1 inch. I don't have enough fabric. So now this is just one of it, and then the gathers that you did here. So here now I'm just going to check if that is up to 9.5 inches. Another way you can check this is by just placing your back. Remember, you did not do anything on the back. So on the back here, you just place the back shoulder on it. If it's not up to, you just spread out your gathers just so that you get exactly what you have on the back on your front also. So now this is what we have now. I'm just going to spread it evenly. So after spreading it now, you have this. You do the same for the front house, for the other side of the front, and then you place them on each other like this, minding the allowance, the overlap allowance that you have here. That's the 3 inches overlap allowance that you started with. So you have something like this, so you can see what you have. So after spreading it like this, okay, so now after spreading it like this, so the next thing you just need to do now is to take your back and then place it on your front like this. So you just take it to the sewing machine, sew it together on the shoulder, on both shoulder, and then on the side seam also you match the side seam together. They have to match because remember we use the front to cut out the back. So you match your side seam together now and then sew it by the 1/2 inch allowance that we left on our side seam. So now you hem it on the neckline area, including this part. You can either cut a facing for it or you just hem it neatly with the bias. So now on the lower part here, I'm going to be cutting a band of 2 inches, a 2 inches band. You can also use an elastic of maybe 2 inches or whatever it is, or you fix a peplum to it, however it is you want to finish it. But I'm just going to be cutting a band and then sew it around it so that I can hold these gathers, because you don't want to leave these gathers flying around just like that. So just use it to knit that area up. So now I'll take this to the machine now and sew it. So the blouse have been sewn on both the side and the shoulder now, so you can see the small gathers that we have on the hem and also on the shoulder area. So you can see the ruched effect that we have there. So I used just 1 inch intervals in between my slash line, and like I said, you can use 2, 3 or 4 depending on how many ruffles you want around this area. So you can see the gathers. You can also pleat this, you don't have to gather, and you can see that the kimono is just a short one. It stops around the bicep area here, as we can see. So this is the full view, and this is the overlapping part of the blouse. So here you can just add a band to it, but when we were drafting this, remember we maintained the bust measurement on the waistline also, so it's very easy to wear. But if you want to gather this to your actual waist measurement, then your bust may not be able to pass through it. So in that case, you may need to maybe pass a zipper on the side seam, or you just open it at the back, center back, so that you can put a zipper on it. So this is the full view of the blouse, and it is really beautiful. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.